Hello and welcome to another Crochet Swatch Saturday. Today we're going to be talking about the Soft Bamboo Double from Hobby. Yes, that one. But before we dive into that, I want to let you know that if you want nothing but the details, I have a lot of that in the notes below, and I've timestamped this so you can jump to just my actual review. However, I'm going to tell you that if you stay along for the ride as I do these and work them up as a swatch, I share a lot of insight that doesn't really come out in the review. So I strongly recommend that you stay tuned for the whole thing. But hey, I understand sometimes time's tight. You just want to get to the nuts and bolts. So I share that all for you too. All right. So today we're going to be flipping it up a little bit. This is the first episode of the year, and I'm going to be modifying my scale a little bit. I got some feedback from y'all, and I want to make sure that I keep things tight. So we're going to be rating things on a 5-point scale instead of a 10-point scale, because everybody said 10 points a little bit too much. So let's narrow it down. I like a 10-point scale, but I think society kind of tends towards that 5-point scale, so that's what we're going to go with. All right, let's dive in. For those that don't know, I'm on a mission to find an amazing bamboo yarn that is not super splitty, because I think that bamboo is super soft, super drapey. It's just amazing overall, but it does have this nasty tendency to split. So today we're going to be testing out the Soft Bamboo Double by Go Handmade, which I believe is a brand that is a Hobby brand, but you might be able to get this other places. So I'm not sure about that. We're going to set these over here. The first thing that I have to do is the feel. This yarn feels just like you would want a traditional bamboo yarn to feel. It's very soft, there's a little bit of a shine to it, so it gives a nice luster overall. I'm going to pull out my handy dandy little scale to determine what size this yarn actually is, because when I bought it, I was thinking that it was a DK weight yarn, but I think it might actually be listed as, nope, that's not right. I thought it was a fine weight, but I've seen it listed as a sport weight. So on our little gauge here, we can see that we've got the fingering is the second line. The third line is really what is the sport, and then the fourth line is the DK. Now, like I said, when I bought this, I thought it was supposed to be fingering, but I think it's actually a little bit big for the fingering. I think it fits much better into a sport weight yarn. So we're going to swatch it up as if it's a sport weight and kind of base it on that. Now, the label, if we look at the label, it does say that it uses 3 to 4 millimeter needles. If I can get that without the shine, maybe not. Trust me, that's what it says. And I looked on the website. It also does not list hooks on the website. I looked on Ravelry. It doesn't list hook size on Ravelry. So what I did was I determined that because this is a sport weight yarn, kind of the starting place for a sport weight yarn is anywhere between a 3.5 and a 4.5 millimeter. So we're going to go in the middle and use the 4 millimeter hook. Again, this is just based on the research that I've done, so we'll see how it goes. And if you're familiar, I have used the Truboo yarn before. I've made 2 garments with Truboo. I have a review for the Truboo, so you can check that out. I will make sure to link that so you can see it. This is really, it feels very fine, very delicate. I've been working a lot with larger yarns lately, so it's going to take me a second to kind of, and I did a double. I always do a double there. It's going to take me a second to kind of get back in the flow of things here. It's been a few weeks since I've done one of these because I pre-recorded a bunch of them before my trip. And therefore, I've just been working on one project that entire time. And I don't know about you, but if I kind of get in the mode and the mindset of working on one project, my hands figure out what it is I'm supposed to do for that project. And then when I go to switch to something different, it's very disconcerting. It's a little like, hello, what were you doing there? And we'll keep going. What I usually do is I usually do about 3 or 4 rows, kind of see how it goes. Again, this feels very dainty compared to the worsted weight yarn that I've been. Actually, the yarn I'm using is not worsted, it's DK, but it feels a little on the chunky side compared to this. So we'll just kind of keep working at it. It comes in, this yarn comes in, wow, 29 shades for this yarn. That's a lot. I mean, you know, if you're familiar, the Truboo doesn't come in a lot of shades. This really has you covered. Now, that being said, it is a thinner, smaller weight yarn, and not all of the projects you do, you're going to want that thinner weight yarn. I tend to like the smaller yarn because I have a lot of summer wear out of it, and the smaller yarn is a lot cooler overall. It's thinner, so it's not as warm on my body. I like that about the thinner yarns. Yes, this is going to take some getting used to. The fiber makeup, as opposed to Truboo, which is a true 100% bamboo yarn, this is a blend, and it is a blend of 70% bamboo from viscose, or viscose from bamboo, however you say that, 23% cotton, and 7% acrylic. So it's an interesting combination overall. It has a few extra things in there that hopefully will offset a little bit of that splittiness, a little bit of that sagginess that true bamboo often has. If you've worked with bamboo before, you know that it often, the drape is phenomenal. Too much so because you wear it once and it hangs and it just sags, and then it becomes too big after the first wear. So I actually purchased enough of this to make a garment, and I really want to try and make something and see how it works out. I won't have it done for this video, but I will certainly update, come back when I do. This is on one of my spring project lists, I think, to use this yarn. All right, so this is a center pull, and I can see just a little bit of threading here and there, and you know, that's kind of that split that you get. But as far as working with it so far, I'm not noticing any split, so that's kind of good. If you've used this yarn before, or if you've used any of the bamboo yarns, if you have a favorite bamboo yarn that you absolutely love to use, I would love to hear from you what it is. This, I don't know, I love the properties of the bamboo, but there are just certain things that, the fact that it doesn't hold its shape is a big deal. I'm hoping that the 23% cotton and 7% acrylic compensate for that with this particular yarn, and will help it to keep its shape much, much better than a true 100%. I also have the Kobu, and I will be doing a review on that one in the very near future as well. I have plans to make a summer beach wrap with that one. So I've got a lot of these that I really want to try out and see how they work up. I'm bound and determined. I did just get a little bit of a split there. The point here caught the edge just a little bit. Now, I know with the Truboo, if I don't go too fast on it, it generally tends to be okay on the splitting. It's not like, it's manageable. Obviously, we want to crochet faster because we want to get our projects done, but if we slow down, then it generally tends to be okay. I'm not finding too much of a splittiness issue on this, which is great. I mean, that was one of the biggest negatives of this. Now, the washability, let's kind of take a look at that. I don't remember how this compares to the washability of the Truboo, but this is a machine washable, and as long as it's on a, well, no, it doesn't even have to be cold water. It can be a warm water, which is really nice. But it does say do not tumble dry, so it's a lay flat. So this is actually the same wash instructions as the Truboo. So even though it has the cotton and the acrylic in there, the instructions are the same as what the Truboo would be. So that's kind of a 1-for-1. The price on this is $9, and that is because it is coming from Holland or Denmark or wherever Hobie is located, Denmark, I think. And so that is including the tariffs and that kind of thing. I don't believe there is any place that sells the Go Handmade in the United States. So wherever you get it from, you will have to pay those tariffs. And that does eat into the benefit of the yarn. Look, I've got a little husky glitter in there. Because bang for buck, this is a lot higher than what Truboo is. If we compare it, let's see, we have 125 yards of this. And the Truboo, we get 241 yards for $5.99. Now, the Truboo is a DK weight. This is a sport weight. That changes it a little bit. But overall, this is going to be much, much more expensive. I'm of the mindset I don't mind paying more for something if the quality is going to make my life that much better. So that is the key. We have to see. All right, let's cut that single swatch off. Just for giggles, I went and grabbed my Truboo swatches, and this is a Truboo single crochet versus the Kobu or the soft bamboo. You can see there's a lot more curl. So there is so much more drape with the Truboo. It lays completely flat, whereas the soft bamboo, I might get that right by the end of this video, does not lay completely flat. Neither one of these are blocked, so this is just exactly as it is. Stitch definition, they are pretty comparable. They're pretty darn close overall. I would say equal. Nothing different there whatsoever. So let's go ahead and do up the double crochet real quick, and we will continue to review. so here we have our double crochet all finished. And I did find some splittiness on the double crochet. Now let's compare it to the Truboo. I think our stitches are much tighter. I must have used a smaller hook size comparatively. I think this would actually benefit from going down a hook size. So I think 3.5 would probably be a better hook size for this overall. I also think you're going to get a better result with less kind of sagginess overall. This is a pretty tight one, so I don't think you're going to get much sagginess here. The two patterns that I used it for, one was a mesh lacy kind of top, and so that's the one that just, and I have seen, and the other one was a cardigan that actually called for it. The cardigan is definitely holding up better than the lace top. This is the Harbor cardigan that I used the Truboo for, so it's not quite as mesh as the top, the lacy top, and it is definitely holding up better, I would say. So as long as you have something that's going to be a tighter mesh or not mesh at all, you're probably going to be okay and not get quite as much sag. But I think you're going to have the same result with this either way. So I don't think that the cotton and the acrylic are going to make that much of a difference in that overall kind of sagginess. I mean, that's just kind of my first impression on the stretchiness of them. I don't think that this is going to be worth spending the extra money on. So let's pull out our little sheet. We're going to go through and we're going to rank these and see how we did overall. Feel, of course, the bamboo just takes it. It makes it so nice. I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. No doubt there. The color range with almost 30 colors, that's pretty darn amazing for a solid color yarn without any variables. Really, really impressive. Fiber. I love the idea of bamboo. I'm not a fan of acrylic. I love cotton. This is an interesting combination. And just for the interest factor alone, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. I don't think it's going to deliver, though. Whoops, my pen is dying here. Split. Okay. I don't think it was as bad as the Truboo. There were some splits in there. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. The definition, not bad. Let's see here. Definition, we're going to give that a 4 out of 5. There are some things where I'm just like, you know what? It's pretty darn good, but it could be a little bit better. Drape, again, I'm actually kind of disappointed, and I know if I sized down a hook, the drape would get even worse. For a bamboo, I'm a little bit surprised on that, so I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5. The reason I'm not marking it down even more is because it is a bamboo, and I bet you it's going to loosen up a little bit with wear. Oh, Frogability. Let's see how this baby frogs. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Yeah, this is smooth as butter. No issues whatsoever there. So Frogability, 5 out of 5. Washability, it's lay flat to dry, so we're going to take a point off for that. But otherwise, I think it's pretty decent. I love the fact that I could just throw something in the washer, even if I have to lay it flat. We're okay with that. Concerns, part of it's the tariffs and the smaller amount that you actually get in this yarn. I'm going to take a point off for that. There's just a little bit, you know what, I got to keep that on the price factor because it's not locally. We're going to go down to price the $9. We got to say that's a 3 out of 5. This is a pretty pricey yarn for what it is. So we're going to say 3 out of 5 for the price. Concerns overall, I'm afraid that it's going to sag, and I can't give it my honest review until I do that, but we're going to take a point off because I'm pretty sure we're going to sag. So 42. So 4.2 out of 5 stars. Not the worst. I have to kind of go back and look at some of my previous scales that were on the 10-point scale, because this would be probably an 8.4, 84. 8.4 out of 10 would be kind of that equivalent range. So I did have a lot that were higher than that, but that's also not the worst of the worst. This price, though, man, it's so pricey for what it is. I love the color range. If we could get that price down a couple of dollars, then it might be worth giving a try. I have enough to give it a try for one project, but I'm not sure that I'm going to love it enough to pay for more. That's kind of my honest review of it. These are not paid reviews by any means. I buy this yarn out of my own pocket and give you my honest feedback, and that's what we go on. So if you like these reviews, make sure you like and subscribe, and let me know what yarns you want me to review in the future, because I'm always looking for new fun yarns to buy and see what they're like. If you happen to have a connection, I am not opposed to free yarn. If you would like me to review your yarns, I'm happy to do that. Let me know in the comments below and we can get that worked out as well. Thank you so much, and we'll see you later.